Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to call this very important meeting of Tuesday, January 16th, 2018, in City Council Chambers to order. It's on, I'm just not talking into it. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, we will now have roll call. Please indicate your presence electronically. 6 members of the Planning Commission are present. Mr. Williams.
Commissioners, before you have the minutes of the December 5th, 2017 public hearing. If there aren't any changes, we are in need of a motion. Commissioner G,
I move for acceptance of the minutes.
is there a second?
Second.
Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second, and you will be voting electronically. 6 members have approved the minutes from the December the 5th, 2017 meeting. Announcements of future meetings and conferences. No applications were received for the February. Therefore, our next scheduled work session is Tuesday, March the 6th, 2018 at 12:30 p.m. 6th floor conference room, followed by public hearing at 1:30 p.m. City Council chamber. Items reviewed today will be presented to City Council for action at their February the 13th or February the 27th, 2018 public hearing, or as otherwise noted. Planning Commission rules limit a speaker up to 5 minutes to speak. We also ask that everyone please silence your cell phones at this time if you have not already done so. Thank you. Our first application is UP-17-16 Downtown. Bruce Watts of the Water Group Incorporated is requesting a use permit to construct a mixed-use building on the northwest corner of Effingham Street and County Street. The 4-story building would contain 59 apartment units and 5,375 square feet of commercial space and is located in downtown D1 District, T5 Sub-District. The applicant is also requesting credit and a waiver to allow an overall density of 31.4 units per acre, where the maximum density allowed is 24 units per acre. The property is owned by the Portsmouth Redeveloping and Housing Authority and is designated within the mixed-use corridor on the Comprehensive Plan's future land use map. The property is addressed as 818 County Street and is also identified as tax map 49, parcel 27. Our staff coordinator is Jonathan Hartley.
Mr. Chairman, as we've modified our procedure, staff no longer makes presentations on these items,
Okay.
in keeping with the process that's been adopted by City Council. And with that, we are now calling for the applicant to make presentations to the Planning Commission. And if you would so indulge us and the applicant, the time frame that we have, the City Council has directed is to give the applicants 10 minutes to make their presentation prior to the opening of the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. The applicant is here, of course.
Good afternoon, Commission. My name is Craig Patterson. I'm a Senior Vice President for the WODA Group. I represent the applicant. Today I have with me an architect, Heather DeCourt, who is a historic AIA. She will give some details on the presentation, and Bruce Watts, who's in our Norfolk office. He is also here. The property at 818 County Road, as you know, we are proposing a 59-unit mixed-use, mixed-income property. 57 of the units will be funded through funds that come through housing tax credits. The other units will be market rate units We have 5,300 square feet of commercial, which at the present time, we are working with a prestige seafood company, restaurant that would actually be interested possibly in building out to suit on that property. We've named the property Holly Point in honor of Dr. James Holly III, whom you all know, the venerable former mayor, and Mr. Bruce Watts, who is with me, has actually talked to Dr. Holly's son in the last 2 weeks to get confirmation on the name. We would like to enter in as soon as we get our hookup on our PowerPoint. I would like to mention and have Heather DeCourt come forward to talk about this property. The WODA Group is based in Columbus, Ohio. We have built 8 other housing developments, such as the one proposed. The nearest, the Banks at Berkeley, which is in Norfolk, which is a 50-unit mixed-use building in the Berkeley neighborhood. That particular property won the accolades of City Planning Commission. They said it was the finest, most reputable, the most unique light-tech project that they had ever seen. The quality of the project equaled or exceeded the quality they had seen in other market rate developments within their actual city. This investment in County Road will exceed $10.9 million, and we estimate the construction jobs that will be there will be somewhere around 90 construction jobs, which we have a preference to hire locally. With that, I think I'm going to have Heather come up, who, like I said, is a registered architect from PCI Design Group based in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We actually recruited her to come and work on this project because of her numerous governor awards that she has helped us win in the state of Michigan in downtowns where there are historic buildings. So I'll turn it over to Heather.
All right, so I'm going to work off the slides. Is this a comfortable way you guys can see what I'm, okay.
that's
And I
fine.
have a laser pointer too, so I'll be able to kind of point to what I'm talking about.
That's fine.
All right, so first of all, this right now is a vacant site. It's almost 2 acres, but not quite. And it's pretty much in the heart of downtown as far as it's at an important node. One of the things I did when I was brought on board is I reviewed the City of Portsmouth zoning ordinance, but I also reviewed the downtown design manual standards. And they clearly indicate that this corner right here is an important node both for Effingham and for county. And that being said, they placed a high priority on density on that corner. Right now, I believe the standards call for anywhere between 3 and 5 stories on that corner, depending on where exactly you fall. But you can see we have a higher density over on this side with a housing development. But then over here, we start to have some smaller densities as you go forward. So if we look at our site, it kind of bridges the gap between some smaller density over on this side, a few bigger densities as we go down the main, the main commercial corridor here, and then transitioning into some bigger density over here. So we did talk with the city as we were developing this, and they made it clear that the priority for density would be along Effingham. So they said, put as much density as you can along Effingham, and then you can turn the corner and run out the rest of it onto county, depending on how much square footage you need and can support for your project. So what we've done is we've created an L-shaped building, and we've pushed it basically to the southeast corner of the site within 1 foot of the property line as dictated in the standards. And along Effingham, the first floor is pretty much a complete commercial use. We have a commercial lease space on the first floor for the leg of the building. And then at the center of the building, we have commercial uses, but they are for the residents. They'd be like the community gathering space, the lease office, and the entry to the building, as well as some circulation. The remainder of the building along County on the first floor and the upper floors is all going to be residential as a 4-story building. So we do have parking basically in the northeast corner of the site. I believe we have 79 parking spaces. We do have a 1-for-1 residential unit to parking ratio. In addition to that, we have visitor parking included. I believe we have six spaces for visitor parking, and then we also have accounted for commercial parking on the site as well. And on the first floor, the way we've worked out the commercial is so those commercial spaces are basically the entire width of that first floor. So you have access to those commercial tenant spaces both from Effingham and from the parking lot. So you can come in as a pedestrian or someone parking on the on-street parking on Effingham and get to the commercial spaces, or you can come around the back into the parking lot and access them as well. That's also convenient for loading and unloading and those type of things. Okay. Other than that, I do want to point out that we have, based on the design guidelines, we are doing quite a bit of improving to the sidewalks. Right now, Effingham is a brick sidewalk, and I believe there's trees planted there. But the other 3 sides of the site are not brick sidewalks, and for the most part, they do not have trees. But as a way to comply with the design intent of the manual and also to provide pedestrian coverage, we are proposing to plant trees on all 4 sides of the site where there are currently none. And we're also upgrading the sidewalk to the brick paving. We're going to be adding the benches and the trash receptacles and the lights. So as far as the design of this project, as I mentioned, it's kind of an in-between. You have quite a bit of mass on one end of town, but then immediately around it you have quite a bit of smaller buildings, 2 stories. They're not very big. That puts us in a difficult position because of the mass of the building at 4 stories. There's not a lot of good way that you can be sensitive to such a big building with so many smaller buildings around it. We did do, though, is try to make this building a presence in its own right and be consistent with the other larger scale residential buildings you have downtown. So we put our emphasis on the ends of the building. We created those as a solid brick mass, and we raised up the parapets on the corners as well to kind of give an anchor to the building and emphasize the corners of this building because they're very dominant. Basically, all the corners of this building are pretty dominant on that site. Then the space in between the corners, we've kind of created a little less mass by changing the fourth floor to something other than brick. And we'll be using an engineered wood siding product, a commercial grade siding product. And we've also made the scale of those a little bit narrower by using some recesses and whatever to kind of reduce the overall scale of the building. On Effingham Street, on the first floor, we do have the commercial spaces here, and you can see those are definitely treated as commercial space. They have a large expanse of glass in each storefront, and they do have canopies over the front of each of the doors there and a sign band over top. So once we better understand the needs of the commercial tenants going in there, they will have a place for signage, and there will be plenty of pedestrian coverage in front of their spaces as well. So I guess here's more of a reference to the building materials we have. We have thought through this, and the Downtown Design Committee vetted the materials very carefully. We met with them twice, and they did make quite a few recommendations that we addressed, and I think for the most part made improvements to the overall project here. And so we've basically, for the most part, it's a brick building. We have a lighter color brick on the bottom and a more traditional red brick on the upper floors. We'll have some residential style single hung windows for the most part on the upper floors to maintain the residential feel, the use up there, and more in keeping maybe with some of the other buildings in the area, the scale wise. But again, on the first floor where there's a commercial space, we'll have large panes of glass. I understand you have a transparency requirement, which this will definitely meet. Other than that, I think there's some lighting that we accommodated on the building itself and other locations for signage. And in this corner, we do have, it's kind of small, but you can see it's called Holly Point, which is the name of the building. So at the main corner entrance of the building, we'll have the name of the building pretty much right on the building, like almost like a plaque. I think that's all I have to share. Do you have any questions for me on the building design, the architecture?
Commissioners, are there any questions? There being none, thank you.
Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Bruce Watson, the Vice President for WOTA in the Virginia office. We have a headquarters here in Norfolk, Virginia. We have either 8 projects under construction, have finished off in the state of Virginia. We've been very successful. We have 2 projects in Norfolk, one called the Banks at Berkeley, another one called Bell Diamond, about $24 million worth of investments. What I would like to say is, personally, I know the Hawley family. I knew the Mayor James Hawley III, played golf with him, and I knew him for about 20 years. And when I talked to his family and I said, we would like to name this after Mayor Hawley, his son, Jimmy, said, it would be our honor. And I told Jimmy, I said, no, it's our honor. And what we would like to do, if we're awarded this opportunity, we would like to have a portrait of Mayor Hawley in our lobby, and we also would like to have artifacts to the success and the history that he has had in the city of Portsmouth. We think that this project will clearly be a project that all income levels that live in Portsmouth can live here. It's a mixed income development. It is a project which we call workforce housing, but clearly we have some market rates in here too. And we have identified a national company out of Richmond that's very interested in being a signature seafood restaurant on the ground floor. We would respectfully request that you would vote in favor of our project here today. Thank you very much.
Commissioners, are there any additional questions? Commissioner Youngblood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if Mr. Patterson or Mr. Watson would be the best one to ask these questions of, but I've got a couple questions for you. How many square feet in each apartment? Or what's the average square foot for the apartments?
Heather can answer that more precisely than we can.
So currently, we have both 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms in this particular building. And the 2 bedrooms are, I would say, they're base designed around an 850 square foot number for the 2 bedrooms. The 3 bedrooms are probably closer to 1,000 feet.
And the unit mix, so you know, I mean, we're skewed much more toward the 2-bedroom. Our target are for single or young people that may want to live in the downtown. So we have 49 2-bedrooms and only 10 3-bedrooms.
Along the same lines, you talk about mixed income and workforce housing and market rate. Are these code words for subsidized housing? What rental units what rental rates are you looking at?
Well, we are looking at rental rates. The gross rents for our 2 bedrooms will range anywhere from $652 to $937 per month. For our 3s, anywhere from $753 to $1093 per month. When it comes to our 2 bedrooms that we deem as market rate, right now we're setting them at around $1,000 a month. We know that within the city there are a lot of market rate units. We're hoping to strike a rental rate that helps those who are in kind of the middle income band, not at the highest, to give them an opportunity to live downtown in your walkable downtown. And
Maybe I'm reading this wrong, but it looks to me like you're skewing this in the direction of what I'd call subsidized housing. I have to tell you that it's a very striking-looking edifice. But I'm extremely concerned that here we have the highest traffic area in the city. This is our front door to the city from all intents and purposes. And we need to have our front door really, really nice and really something that we can be proud of. And I'm not sure that subsidized housing is the way to do it. I think we definitely need this in the city, but I question this particular location for anything other than market rate. I also have to question the fact that you've only allowed, I think, 13 commercial parking spaces, which hardly seems like you're taking the commercial part of this very seriously. For 3 commercial spaces and 3 commercial businesses potentially here, and only 13 parking places to support those. I don't think that many restaurants are going to be real excited about that prospect. So I think it would be unfair for you to not hear my concerns about how you're proposing using our gateway to Portsmouth. Once again, I think it's a very impressive edifice, but I'm still not sure that that's the highest and best use of this particular hunk of land.
Well, I appreciate the comment, Commissioner Youngblood, and as you said, a striking building elevation. And that's one of the reasons we brought in Heather and spent the extra time and effort to bring the right architect in. And I think the way she described it, the massing and everything, I think it can represent a gateway, an invitation into your downtown. I do want to answer your comment about subsidized. I mean, to characterize this as subsidized, some would say it is subsidized because it's the lower end of the affordable worker range of incomes. But it is not subsidized in the sense that it has project-based subsidy that is on all of the units. It is not that at all. It is funded primarily through housing tax credits that are administered through VHDA, but it is not project-based in the sense of a HUD 100% project-based project. Sometimes there are those who consider housing tax credits as subsidy from the government. These credits, as you know, come into the Commonwealth. They are administered through VHDA, and those credits can go anywhere in the Commonwealth, providing the developer follows strict rules, guidelines, and scoring criteria to make sure that the very best is built for those who would live in the project. This project will be Earthcraft Gold or Platinum. We're still working on that, which is the equivalent of LEED's Gold or higher. And what that means is that the highest energy standards, what that means that all tenants that are within there, the housing community, will have more disposable income to spend on their families and within the neighborhood. And that's because we're putting the extra investment in it. The brick, et cetera, that you see, the fact that it has an elevator, the fact that we can even support the commercial and do that with housing tax credit means that the owners of this particular property will be taking more out of their pocket than some of the other developers who develop similar type of properties. So whether or not you're saying it is the appropriate location for those who work in the downtown, who may work in the downtown or the adjacent areas that are at the lower end of the wage scale, I mean, that is a decision I think is made by the leadership of this community. But these are the people who serve your community. They could be people that work in medical as technologists. They could be bus drivers, young school teachers. It could be individuals that are in EMS at the lower end of the wage scale, but they do get up every day and they go to work and they deserve safe, affordable housing to live in, and that's what we propose here. As far as parking 13 spaces, Heather, do you want to address that?
So a few things. The 13 spaces, there are also 8 on-street parking spaces along Effingham on that block. And the site has the capacity to hold more parking, but we were trying to balance the amount of paved area with green space and an overall benefit to the community without, having a continuous parking lot from edge to edge as far as we could go. We can certainly entertain more parking and see how it can fit on the site, because I believe that there is capacity, but we just made a conscious decision not to exhaust every area of the site to accommodate parking.
And if I could just add on parking, as you all well know, downtown is a very walkable downtown. And if my memory serves me correctly, but the zoning department can correct me, I don't think there's an actual parking requirement for downtown parking. But it is very walkable, and I've been in downtown Portsmouth a lot. And your restaurants are very walkable, and I think, it's a central garage area, 2 of them, and most people park in those and they walk to the restaurants. That's the experience that I've had in downtown Portsmouth.
Sir, I live downtown. I'm very familiar with it. I've been there for 18 years. Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioners, any additional questions? Commissioner G?
I thank you all for your presentation today. I recall 10 years ago when I was a fresh college graduate, living in what some would consider subsidized housing myself. And I think about the desires and needs I had at that time. What kind of amenities would be made available with these? Does this include anything like recreation, things like that? I mean, I know you're not targeting families per se, so not necessarily playgrounds, but would there be fitness and items such as that available?
Well, first of all, you're correct. We are targeting general occupancy, which would be singles, families, and seniors. So therefore, with that, we try to blend appropriate amenities. The outdoor areas that Heather can elaborate more were more so to get families and residents outdoors. We do have community space on the first floor that will allow residents to invite their guests. And generally what we do is we'll have flat screen TV. We may have some exercise equipment. We do have sometimes we provide digital and actual referencing, that type of thing for like a library type of thing. But we haven't totally decided on exactly what some of those extra amenities will be, but we do have the space, indoor and outdoor, for that.
And one thing I know that's come up with us, I believe it was in this commission, and also maybe when I served in Parks and Rec, one of the things that downtown is short on is areas for people with pets. And I believe looking at your other location in Norfolk, they do allow pets there. Have you given a thought to a pet area or something like that?
Well, that's a great suggestion, because we do allow pets, and that's something I think we can incorporate. I mean, Heather, we have room.
So no, I haven't currently accounted for a pet area, but I'm sure we could build one in. I'm sure I can find a place for one, but I haven't currently studied that as an option.
I know it's something that's being deemed as desirable in certain areas in downtown.
Thank you, Commissioner G. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? Thank you, sirs and madam.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, commissioners. Appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP-17-16. I do have 2 registered speakers. As I call your name, would you come forward, state your name and your address, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Our first speaker is Donna Sy.
Good afternoon. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. At a Portsmouth development, Redevelopment Housing Authority meeting on June the 15th, 2017, there was a resolution to authorize a development agreement on one or more deeds of bargain and sale with Wuda Group Incorporated and its developer to build 59 apartments on 818 County Street. 818 County Street is approximately 1.88 acres, and it was acquired on May the 26, 1989. The funding source was the Community Development Block Grant. Where does this development fit into the Downtown Portsmouth Economic Development Plan? At each of our Planning and Economic Development Commission meetings, we the people need to have statistical reports monthly from the city departments. See the organizational chart of the city. See at the top, citizens. We the people are a republic. That means we the people are to self-govern, yet the city does not provide the people with that opportunity. Therefore, the city manager needs to oversee that opportunity by informing the department heads to provide their previous monthly statistical reports to the Planning and Economic Development Commission meetings. For example, the sheriff reports on the activities of the people who have been committed to jail. The police department, the number of juveniles committed to detention. Behavioral health care, report on treatments. Social service, number of people receiving different types of services. The health department, statistics for the month. PRHA reports the number of women and children in public housing and what services they provide these women and children. Portsmouth Homeless Action Consortium needs to report on the homeless and the services provided to them. With all this information monthly, we the citizens of Portsmouth will be able to see what is needed in our city. It would also help developers like Wuda to get to see if the city needs to build 59 apartments. What the city needs is programs and facilities to provide self-sufficiency opportunities because of all the public housing facilities for women and children, homeless roaming the downtown, and adults and children on summer feeding programs. We have the housing statistics. The city needs a self-sufficiency program that includes a canning factory and a community garden to provide the food for the canning factory. We need to create a method to become self-sufficient. We can start by teaching women, children, homeless, and other community citizens how to grow food and then can it in the factory. We the people need to stop relying on the federal government for taxpayers' money. For this reason, I oppose the building of 59 apartments on 818 County Street. When housing permits are requested, the planning department needs to have available to the citizen petition to demand denial of the use permit beforehand for these public hearings. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Sy.
Our next speaker, Maggie Magruder.
Good afternoon, Maggie Magruder. I live at 111 High Street, and I've lived in downtown Portsmouth for 15 years. And I am not in support of these 59 apartments. And the reason is we have a lot of apartments in downtown Portsmouth. We have a lot of new apartments downtown, and we really don't need any more. We have the Sterling, we have the Cove, we have all the new ones on London Boulevard. Where I live, we have Crawford Square, we have Admiral's Landing, we have the new Harbor Towers, we have the one, we have the one on Crawford Street, the new bank building, that they haven't even finished that yet. They're still building those new apartments there. And I understand that the old professional building on Washington Street, they're going to make those into apartments. We have plenty of apartments and new apartments and plenty of housing in Portsmouth. We do not need these 59 apartments in this location. We need other things for all the people in the Portsmouth and downtown area. We do not need more new apartments. We have plenty. So I just hope that you will consider something in this property that could benefit all the people better than 59 apartments in downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Magruder.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP-17-16. If there's anyone here who did not get an opportunity to register and would like to address this application, you may come forward, state your name and your address. You will be given up to 5 minutes to speak.
Good afternoon, Commission. How you doing?
Good afternoon.
My name is James Overton, 315 Astor Avenue, City of Portsmouth. I'm not here in opposition or to agree with it because it's the first time I'm seeing the presentation, so I don't have enough information, but I do have some questions. One thing, I can't understand if you're going to open this up to have pets, why you wouldn't already have a plan for for the a pet area. Another question would be the commercial, and I agree with you, the 13 parking places for commercial is not encouraging businesses to come in there if that's all you have. And I would just be wondering if we've had projects like this before on different apartments in the city, and we're still trying to fill those commercial spots on the bottom of the places. And if that doesn't work out, do you have some kind of backup plan so these areas won't go vacant forever? And another question would be, would they be any kind of on-site management? That's an issue sometimes when we have these companies that come in and they're not on site or in the city, things can get kind of out of hand. So that's just a few of the questions I would have. I will hold judgment because I know this is the first part of the process of this. I don't see it as the best and highest use, but it could be a good use. So I'm just going to withhold judgment until the process goes through. Thank you.
Commissioner Youngblood.
Thank you. Mr. Overton, there will be on-site management under this plan. As far as I know, there is no backup plan for the commercial space because our zoning requires commercial on the first floor in this area. So they don't really have a whole lot of option in that respect. I think that as far as the pet stuff, I really don't have any comment on that at all. I can't help you. But the developer is right in front of you, so you can talk to them directly. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Youngblood.
Okay, I got another speaker coming up.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, honorable commissioners, and fellow interested parties. I am Mark Gaduldig-Yatrovsky of 2713 Sterling Point Drive in Portsmouth. I am interested in the concept that has been laid out here. The drawings are certainly attractive, and it reminds me of a plan that we had for Victory in one of the earlier iterations of that development plan. Sort of the old style cityscape where you had commercial and residential in proximity to one another. Here it's the residential above the commercial. I do have a couple of questions about parking. I would like to know if any measures are being taken to secure the area, both for the property that's parked in the lot and for the safety of the residents. I'd be interested to hear any response to that. But I want to say that for a parcel of land that has sat vacant for the entirety of the time I've lived in Portsmouth, and going back to beyond the memories of many people who've lived here much longer, to bring that back onto the tax rolls, to provide affordable housing for working people, to afford them access, walkable access to downtown. You know, it's become sort of passé to describe apartment projects as luxury apartments. It seems that you hardly see an apartment development that doesn't have luxury tagged on to where it's almost incorporated into apartment. So I'm happy to see that somebody is proposing market rate housing for people who are early in their working lives, early in their adult lives, so they have access to the amenities that some of us older folks have enjoyed as part of our maturing. Because a vibrant city and a vibrant downtown is one that has a mix of age groups. You need the vitality of the youth. And, you know, there has been a lot of talk here since I first came to Portsmouth 21 years ago about getting vacant properties onto the tax rolls, improving our tax base. So there should be a lot of enthusiasm when somebody comes to town, and without requesting incentives, that's the other part that really frosts me. So much of what we do in the way of economic development involves givebacks to the developers. So essentially, you're trying to bring something back onto the tax rolls, and then you're giving away the store to do it. So where's the net gain? This is a net gain. So I'm enthusiastic about it, and I hope that this is a project that will move along apace. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yatrowski.
Is there anyone else here who would like to address UP-17-16? Appearing to be none, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed.
Commissioners, the chair is now in need of a motion. Commissioner G.
I move for acceptance of UP 17-16 with conditions.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second to approve UP-1716. You will be voting electronically. Okay. This item is approved by a vote of 5-1, with conditions.
What he meant to say was not accept this, but approve this.
Commissioners, we want to thank you very much.
He said the motion was to accept this application. I think what he meant was to approve this application.
Is it? You accept this? Okay. To approve, okay. Madam Secretary, I believe that concludes our agenda for the day. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioners, would there be any other further business for us to discuss this afternoon? Mr. Baldwin, any further business?
No, sir, I do not.
Hearing none, this meeting is now adjourned.